Hey family, it's Tanya. Today, you guys, we are going to be sitting down and doing an update video. So today we're going to be discussing why we moved and where we moved to. So if you've been following along on Instagram, you've already seen that we moved. And so if you've been wondering why they moved, where they moved to, what's going on, or you've just been wondering where the heck has this girl been, then today we are going to talk about all of that. So stick around for the video. But first, if you're new here, hello, welcome. My name is Tanya and I am the non-traditional mommy. And on this channel, we do life, y'all. We literally do life. We talk about life. I share my thoughts on homeschooling, being a mom of 12, being married, running a business. I do vlogs. I share reviews. All of that good stuff. So if any of that is of interest of yours, or you just want to stick around and join my non-traditional family and be an MVP, then please click the subscription button down below and join our little family. To the rest of my family, you guys, right now I usually say you're the MVPs, and you are the MVPs, but I need to just explain why you're the MVPs. I just need to say thank you to those of you who stick around, who continue to watch, who come back time and time again, who are patient with me when I'm posting and not posting. Those of you who check up, and say, hey, you all right? What's going on? All those good things. Like, you guys are seriously the MVPs. I love y'all, and thank you for sticking around and coming back every time I post a video. Love y'all. All right, you guys, let's jump into this video on why we moved and where we moved to. So I got my matcha, still drinking these, y'all, mostly in the summer, but still loving them, still drinking them on a regular basis. We moved, spoiler, to Chattanooga, Tennessee. We moved at the end of March. Beginning of April. We actually started moving here in March, but moved officially in April because our leases overlapped, which was a blessing. It was nice to have a month to just kind of move back and forth and not a weekend. But we've officially been here since April 1st, and it's been different, you guys. It's been really, really different. But let's just talk about why we moved. So little backtrack, little recap and filler in for those of you who might be new here. We lived in Memphis. We moved there in 2011, I believe. And at that time, we bought a house, lived in a little city called Collierville. We were there until 2020. Between 2018 and 2019, we kind of started toying around with the idea of possibly selling our house. And our thought was, we own two locations of our business, one in Alabama, one in Tennessee. And so in our mind, we were like, we could sell our house and we could rent and pay rent, what we were paying for mortgage, and have like an apartment in Alabama, a rental house in Tennessee. And that way, whenever we had to travel to Alabama, we wouldn't have to get an apartment or Airbnb. Our regional manager could stay there. And so our thoughts was, that would save us some money. So we started that whole process and venturing into that. Then we had a life crisis, had a debt that came up unexpected that we were like, holy crap, kind of floored us a little bit, kind of sunk us a little bit. It was like, what the, but at the same time, it was a blessing that we had already been talking about selling our house. So we went through with that, used the money from that to pay off this debt. And so it kind of worked itself out, but it made it, instead of it now being like our choice and this whole thing, it made it a little bit more stressful and a little more forced in a way, even though we had already been talking about it. But whatever. So we did that, and we started looking for rentals, and nobody told me. So for those of you who may not know, because I hadn't rented since college, honestly. We bought our first house like shortly after I graduated from college. And so I had one child the last time I rented an apartment. So nobody told me that there is a stipulation on how many people you can have in your rental. It's based off of the number of rooms in the house. Because when you own, I mean, you can have 45 people living in your house. So that was like a huge blow. So we sold our house in January. We were in an Airbnb trying to find a rental, and it was just so hard because if you don't know, we have 12 kids. At the time we had 10 at home. Trice wasn't born, so we had 10 at home, and it was like we could not find a house that had ultimately 6 bedrooms or 5 and a bonus, and that was for rent. And so it was so stressful, so scary, to be like, where the heck are we gonna go? But we ended up finding a rental right in the nick of time. We moved into that rental at the beginning of February. It wasn't, something we were just thrilled about. The location wasn't the best, but it wasn't bad, and the house wasn't necessarily bad. For those of you who've watched any of my vlogs or followed along, you know what the house looked like. So we moved in February. That move itself was stressful. I was pregnant at the time. My husband was in Alabama. He had to be there because that location was in complete disarray. So me and the kids literally packed up our whole entire house by ourselves, put everything in storage, got everything out of storage, moved everything. It was crazy, y'all. It was crazy. And so we moved in February. And then in March of 2020, guess what happened? COVID happened. And so we went into lockdown, which ultimately was a blessing for our family. It really was. Not so much for our business, because we had to shut our doors like every business in America that was a brick and mortar and had people coming in. We had to close. And so that part was scary. So we dealt with that, closing the business. And because of that, we didn't do the apartment in Alabama. We were in the midst of COVID, all of that stuff. And so that whole idea and process was put on hold, which in hindsight turned out to be a blessing, because fast forward towards the end of 2021, we got the opportunity to open our third location. So we kind of started toying around with that idea, discussing back and forth with the property, what that would look like, negotiating, that kind of thing. And it felt good, y'all. Things were lining up really easily. We were having synchronicities. And so it just felt really, really good. And we were like, you know what? Let's do it. Let's take this leap of faith and open a third location. So in 2022, we started pursuing the third location. And turns out, because we didn't get an apartment in Alabama, we decided to get an apartment in South Carolina, which was where the third location was going to be. Our other 2 locations at that time were stable and steady. They had pretty good managers. And so we were like, we know what it takes to open a business. We know how much time we have to be there. It just makes sense to get an apartment there. So we got an apartment in South Carolina, was still in our rental in Memphis, and started that whole process. If you have not seen the video of us opening up South Carolina, please go check it out. I'll leave it linked for you to go check out. That location opened up in July, and it was thriving, y'all. When I say thriving, it was thriving. Like, we loved everything about that location. Our customers, the area, the location. We just loved it, and it felt really good. Fortunately, we ended up closing that location, which if I haven't already posted that video, it is coming, an update on that. But if I have, I'll leave it linked for you guys to go check out. But yeah, we ended up closing it. But getting ahead of myself. Before that, everything was going well. We had a manager, and my lease for my apartment was coming to an end. And so we were thinking, okay, what are we going to do? My apartment is ending, as well as our Tennessee lease was going to be ending, in April of 2023. And we were thinking, well, this location is thriving. Like this baby is booming. And we were 10 hours from that location being where we were in Tennessee. And so we thought that's just too far. Sure, we can get on a plane and fly, but that's costly. And we tried to not be frivolous and just spend our money. If we can drive, we'll drive. And so we thought, where can we move that would be a central location to all three of the businesses, that if we needed to get in our car and just drive, we could. We wanted to stay in Tennessee, partially because my daughter is a junior, now senior, and she's thinking about taking advantage of Tennessee Promise. And so we didn't want to move and she lose that opportunity to get Tennessee Promise. And so we started looking and landed on Chattanooga. Now, a year prior, I had did a girls trip here. If you have not seen that video, I'll leave a link for you to check out. But I had did a girls trip here, had an amazing time. I liked Chattanooga. Had told my husband, like, I really like Chattanooga. Like, I can go visit every year. It's really nice. Not thinking I want to move there, but like, I really like it there. But after researching and looking it up, we realized Chattanooga is 5 hours from all three locations. And it was like, that is perfect. Like 5 hours is not bad. We can hop in our car and go. And so started looking for places to move here, started looking at rentals, found a rental that we really liked. When we initially started pursuing, they had told us they had an offer on it and, you know, it was already rented. So we're like, okay, well, whatever, moving on, we'll keep looking. But it wouldn't go away. Like the idea of where we are now, I kept thinking about it, even though I was a little scared because I'm like, this is like, we're moving, we're going to be away from our flagship. Like it was a lot for me. But for some reason, like the feeling of like this place wouldn't go away. So I had said to my husband, let's just reach out and see, like, did that actually ever happen? Reached out and it had fell through. And so we started working with the realtor and getting some really good incentives and deals. And so we were like, okay, this is all flowing and working. And then realized we had to shut down South Carolina. And y'all, that was a blow. Like, talk about just the wind knocked out of me and a gut punch. And it was a lot. And so then we thought, well, what do we do with this rental we're negotiating? Do we still move? Like, what do we do? Because at that point, we didn't necessarily need it anymore. We were already 5 hours from our Alabama location where we were in Tennessee and down the street from our Tennessee location. And so I went back and forth with my therapist, y'all, a lot on this idea of, do we still move? And honestly, it wouldn't go away. And I think partially, which is leading into the second reason of the why. The first initial was to be close to all three locations. But then the second, I realized that we just needed a change. We needed a change of scenery. We needed to reset. Like I said, we have been in Memphis for over 11 years. And there really wasn't, aside from our business, there wasn't anything that was like grounding us there. In our business, we didn't necessarily need to be there because we have a team that runs that location. And honestly, 2023 came in like, like on New Year's Eve, I kid you not, of 2022, we were like dealing with crisis. And it has been nonstop, y'all. I'm not like nonstop since then. And so we were feeling like this heaviness and this unsettledness. And on top of that, I don't know, you know, if you own a business where you live, you may can relate to this, but things were starting to intertwine and get a little blurry in a way, from the standpoint that on the good side, our business was growing and becoming more and more popular, which is amazing. But on the flip side of that, that means more and more people knew who you were. That was kind of weird for me. Like, prime example, I had went to my gynecologist for my PAP. My gynecologist knew what business we owned, and he's like doing my pap. I'm like on the table, legs open, and the nurse is in there, and he's like, how's business going? And I'm like, oh, it's going good. And we're just kind of having this small talk, and the nurse says, oh, what business do you own? And he tells her, and she's like, oh, I love that place, I bring my kids there all the time, and da da da. And I'm like on the table with my legs open, needing to wax, needing to be shaved, like just a mess, y'all. And I'm sitting here like, this is so weird. This is weird. For me, it was weird. And I'm like, this is like, I need some space in a way between my business and where I live. I don't know if that makes sense. It was just becoming a situation where you go to the grocery store and it's like, oh, hey, and I'm an introvert. That's number one. And I just needed like a separation of business and home. If I want to go to the grocery store in a bonnet, not that I'm saying you should, but sometimes you might want to. It wasn't a situation that I could do that. Like I just never felt like I could just, there was no separation. A lot of times teachers don't like to teach in the same district that they work in, or, cops, although they should, tend to not patrol the same area they live in. And so it's this idea of needing separation. When you own a business, it's not a whole lot of separation you can do. So for me, that also became a thing. And so I was like, it's a year, right? We're going to sign a year lease. If it fails or we hate it, we can always come back to Memphis. But let's just reset. Let's just try something different and get some space in between these locations and see how it goes. And that's exactly what we did. So we packed up and we moved, and we've been here, like I said, since April. Y'all, before I moved here, I did so much research. I watched every single YouTube video that there was about Chattanooga. I read all the articles. I looked up news stories. Like, I did so much research. And one of the things that I noticed is that there wasn't a lot of Black people talking about living in Chattanooga. That's partially because there's not a lot of Black people that necessarily live here. It's definitely not Memphis, being that Memphis is 80% Black. So no matter where you live, suburbs, in the heart, like, there was Black people everywhere. And in a way that is comforting for me. And that is different, which is fine because we've lived in Nashville, we've lived in Murfreesboro. But after being in Memphis for over 10 years, that kind of became comforting. But I digress. Basically, there was no like Black people talking about living here and their experiences of living here. So I felt like, well, if nothing else, I'll create a little mini series on being Black and living in Chattanooga for somebody else who may be interested in moving here, or moving here because they're relocating and wondering what it's like as a Black person, because it's different, right? If you're Black, it's different living somewhere Black. And if you're not Black, let me explain and tell you that when you're Black, it's different living places than when you are the majority. Our experiences are different. Our realities are different. Our encounters are different. It's just different. That's just the way it is. Not saying it's good, bad, or indifferent. It is different though. So anyway, I hope to create a mini series on that. So stay tuned for that. If you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell if you want to know what it's like to live in Chattanooga as a Black person. But yeah, that is where we are and why we moved. And so in moving from that house in Memphis, that rental, our last day there, we were all kind of sad, and we were like, why are we sad? Because we were all excited about leaving and moving. None of us really loved that house, but it felt sad, and it was like, what is going on? And so we realized that we've been here 3 years, and not that was a long time because we were at our other house. We moved there in 2011. We moved out in 2020, so 9 years. So that was really sad. But it was sad, and I think it was sad because we were leaving like the city in a way. So we were literally leaving everything behind, similar to when we moved out of Murfreesboro to Memphis. And we realized like we spent 2020 in that house, like in that house. We made so many memories that year as a family. And that in a way was sad. Like I had Trice in that house, and my daughter graduated from high school in that house. And so, you know, there was things that we were just like, as much as we were like, oh, we can't wait to get out of this house, there was still a lot of memories made, a lot of fun and family and just things that we built in that house. I can promise you the energy we left behind was nothing but good energy, because even though we were all like, we got to get out of here, we still really lived and made the best out of our situation. So in a way that kind of made it sad when we were leaving. And so I created like this little montage of the house. I went through with the house being empty, which was a reminder of why I was like, oh, I'm so ready to go. But at the same time was also a reminder of the memories we made. And I wish I would have done that with our other houses that we lived in, you know, created these little montage memories, but I didn't. So did for this house. And so I'm going to insert that here for you guys to see. And I hope you enjoy it and just get a glimpse of what, you know, our life was like in that house. And we're excited about the new memories that we're going to build in this house and in a new city and all of those things. A tour of this house will be coming, not in this video, but in another one. So stay tuned. Where I hope to go with YouTube and this channel is I want to up my editing game. I really enjoy editing. It's like my favorite part of YouTube. And I really enjoy like trying to stretch myself and be more creative and just make my videos better. And so that's my hope and my goal for this stretch season of YouTube. So when I do the tour, I really want to try to stretch myself and do something a little different with that, with the tour of this house. So stay tuned. Like I said, if you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell if you're like, oh, I don't kind of want to see what she does. So yeah, that's where we are, you guys. That's our update on where we moved to and why we moved. Like I said, more updates are to come. So please, again, subscribe if you haven't. And yeah, thanks again for watching. To my family, thank y'all. I love y'all. I can't say it enough. I love you guys. Thank you for being here. And I'll see y'all in the next one. Bye.